All right. So, since there is no session this week, however, there will be one next week and then the week after, I'm going to do a quick little rundown of the system. The system at the moment isn't fully finished. However, it is close enough to being finished to where you can play the game properly with like NPCs, all that stuff. Truthfully, all I really need to add is a shop. I need to add investigator NPCs, and I still need to add Quinques, but that is probably going to be saved for like a DLC or something of the sorts. I'm not particularly in the mood to create Quinques because Quinques are a whole different barrel that I gotta do. When I get to the Quinque section, I'll give a quick little rundown of what you can do for Quinques if you do want to use Quinques in your game, because I know some people probably want to do Quinques instead of ghouls or ghoul investigators. But this is a Tokyo Ghoul TTRPG called Kagune and Quinque, created by me, Houseman, and HH helped a lot with the some mechanical designs and all that. I also had help from Singularity and Gold. So, Kagune and Quinque is a D20 system where you play as a ghoul, artificial half ghoul, or a ghoul investigator, or eventually Quinque. As a ghoul, your job is to hide away from ghoul investigators and find food. As ghoul investigators, your job is to hunt down ghouls and investigate their crime scenes left behind. Same thing with Quinques. The system has minor spoilers for all Tokyo Ghoul series, so keep that in mind. Top of that, it's Tokyo Ghoul. Imagery is going to get a little darker, and general topics are also going to be a little more darker than something like the JJK TTRPG or anything like that. It is technically a seinen, I think. I don't know, Tokyo Ghoul's in that weird space of it was like publishing a shonen series, or it was like labeled as shonen, but it's like very much seinen, kind of like a Chainsaw Man situation, where it's like it's not fully seinen, but it's also not shonen. On top of that, this system has a very intrinsic sanity system, and that sanity can be tied to your RP in some instances. So because of that, we recommend more either like experienced DMs or DMs who have a strong connection with their players, as a lot of this stuff is going to become very personal, opinionated, and that can cause some issues and drama. If someone's like power gaming and it's like, oh, actually I didn't lose sanity, oh, actually I should gain sanity because of blah blah blah, or the DM's like, no, actually you lose sanity, that can kind of turn into the DM taking over player character. So you kind of got to have a good communication if you want to do that. So keep that in mind if you want to start the system. If you want to see the system be played and used, check out Tabletop R and RPG, where we record a campaign for Tokyo Ghoul. Also, shown in TTRPG, a little link for the Discord where you can ask questions. First off, we have the index with some little custom words that are going to help you understand. They're keywords, basically. So here they are. You can take a quick look. Dice system. This is a D20 dice system that was inspired by Breathe and Live, a system made by Sun Punch in Sunlight Yellow, which you can check out here by going to the Sun Punch channel and checking out the Breathe and Live thing. But the way this system works is you roll a D20 and add your modifier, and your modifier, basically it is a trickle down type of stat distribution where you put a number into a stat, then that stat number is how many points you can put into your substat. So you put a 5 in brutality, that means you can disperse 5 points into your individual substats. Think of it like a trickle down of sorts. Yeah. Crits. Crits are pretty basic in this system. There are RP crits, which are basically just succeeding on a roll related to RP, and you get the best outcome, which means like you can't mind control someone or like predict the future because you rolled really good. You get the best outcome, which sometimes the best outcome in the situation isn't that good, but that was because the worst outcome or the normal outcome is really bad. So you got to keep that in mind, that a critical success doesn't mean you do whatever you want. It's you get the best outcome. Same thing with physical crits. That also applies with it, physicality rolls and all that. But in combat, there is a crit succeed where if you roll a natural 20, you hit the target no matter their AC. So even if you roll like a 23 and their AC is 26, you still hit. You just ignore their AC. And you add the highest damage dice again to the roll. However, if you crit fail, which there are RP crit fails, same thing as RP crit success, where you get the best outcome, but it's the reverse. If you nat 1 on RP, you get the worst outcome. And then for combat crit fails, first off, you automatically fail, even if you rolled a 8 and their AC is 6, which is not possible, but whatever. You still don't hit them. And the DM chooses one of two negative effects to happen to you. Either you get knocked prone, or you deal damage to yourself or an ally equal to 2d4 unmitigatable damage. So either you get knocked prone, which means you got a lot less movement speed to move out of the way. And also I might introduce a thing that D&D does of, if you're prone, they get advantage to hit if it's close range, but that's in the future. Or you take damage. / an ally takes damage. Starting off, character creation. This is pretty simple. Read through this and you get your stats. The way this system in character creation works is you basically start out at the lowest rank you can and then just add stuff as if you're leveling up throughout the game. So if you start out the lowest rank and you want to go to like level 5, well then you're going to get everything from level 0 to level 5, and that's how you create the character. There is no like, if you're starting out at level 5, you get this, this, and this. It's like, no, treat it like you start at level 0 and you ranked your way up to level 5. That's how you do this type of thing. There are pre-made stat spreads, but you can also roll by rolling a d6 5 times, and that is what your stats are. Wouldn't recommend this way of coming up with stats because it can get kind of messy, where it's like either you get an incredibly busted character because you rolled a bunch of 6s and 5s, or you get a garbage character because you rolled a bunch of 1s and 2s. That's pretty good for like one shots, but for actual full-blown campaigns, you probably want to do more pre-made stats. Stats themselves are brawn, swiftness, finesse, rationale, and humanity. Get explained here. Well, not really. The subsets get explained here. The brawn is for your, it's your physical stat for all of your muscle, might, brutality, endurance, so on and so forth. Swiftness is your speedy stat. It's for your response, nimbleness, stamina, etc., etc. Finesse is for your ability to control your body in many different ways, such as like hand movements, moving around your Kagune / your Quinque, so on and so forth. Rationale, it's your intelligence stat. It's like academics, deduction, soundness. It's where all your intelligence stuff goes. And not intelligence per se, more so just your mind stuff. Because there's like soundness in there, and that's not intelligence based. That's mind based. Humanity, that's your like charisma stat. That is your like how good are you at talking to people, and how good are you also at deceiving them. Because there are technically 2 ways to deceive in this system. There are misconduct, and then there is deceit. There are 2 different ways. Same thing with how there are 2 different ways to figure it out. Because you use deduction to figure out deceit, and then intuition to figure out misconstruct. Here's a quick breakdown of all the stats. The main thing you need to know is that endurance is the roll you add. Is the modifier you add to your block rolls, which basically is just however much you have in that stat, that substat. That is what you add to it. You don't add the full stat, you add the substat to it for bonuses like that. Brutality, that's how you roll a hit with a physical attack that doesn't involve your Kagune, unless it says roll brutality, which some do. Swiftness, there's a lot here. Swiftness is pretty important. Stamina, that is how many reactions you have. That's pretty important because it costs reactions to do reaction-based things. Response, that's your initiative bonus, and that's it. Covertness is yourself. Finesse is also very important. Motor control, that's how good you are at attacking with ranged weapons, your Kagune, and some Quinque. That's kind of it. Rationale, soundness, very important. Keep that in mind. That is the thing you roll for your mental health and how to keep your mental in check, etc., etc. Adduction is also pretty important, as that is your lying subset. Humanity is pretty important because you're going to be rolling a lot of compassions if you're like a ghoul or ghoul investigator, as you know, you got to either pretend to be a human or you need to figure out how to be compassionate to talk to people and all that. Same thing with intuition. Combat and action economy. Everyone starts off with 1 action and 2 unique actions. Actions are pretty self-explanatory. If you played in TTRPG, they are you use this for your main thing you want to do. Same thing with bonus action. Bonus actions are special extra actions where it's if you need to do something that probably isn't full action worthy, you do bonus action. And the thing that is really unique about this is unique actions. It's something unique to the system. Unique actions are basically bonus action plus. A unique action is a special type of action that anyone can use and is similar to a bonus action with a few key differences. Unique actions are typically used for actions that are unique to your own species. These actions can be found in their own respective sections. Everyone starts out with 2 unique actions, and you can gain more via reaching certain levels, similar to how you gain more with actions. Unique actions can be used for things outside of species-specific actions, but that isn't something that should be done often, as that is what bonus actions should be used for. So these are for your species-specific stuff. These are for your, like, enhancing your body, your bites, your extra attacks, your blocking with your Kagune or Quinque. That's what unique actions are for. Unique actions, much like actions, refresh at the start of your turn. Reactions, pretty simple. Blocking and dodge is a reaction where if you are being attacked, you can roll block or dodge plus your endurance and I think dodging is swiftness. No, you roll endurance or you roll swiftness for these, and they both reduce damage by half. There is no like, oh, did you dodge? Well, you'd actually take 0 damage. Like, no, both deal half damage. Well, reduce damage by half, because that makes it a little simpler and easier, and not one thing is better than the other. It's simply just, what do you want to put in more? Do you want to put more into brawn, or do you want to put more into swiftness? Leap is an action which lets you jump in front of attacks if someone's being hit. You jump in front of them, you take the damage instead, so on and so forth. Then there is Kagune / Quinque block that is found in their own species unique action section, so we'll learn that when we get there. On Kagune or Quinque combat, this isn't this advanced because you shouldn't be fighting with just your hand-to-hand. That's not the main purpose of the system. You're supposed to be fighting with your Quinque and Kagune. So, because of that, this isn't that advanced, but they do have some really, really good effects. Like, these are really good early level, and they become especially good if you get the martial art abilities, which make these a lot better. But yeah, these are pretty simple, but they have some cool effects. Kagune or Quinque limit system. This is another thing that gets a little bit complex, so I'm going to spend some time on this. So basically, for every... I'm going to start with ghouls, because ghouls are the easiest to explain, because you can actually visualize it. So you have a set amount of times you can use your Kagune in combat, and that set amount is equal to however many Kagune you have. Because whenever you level up, you can either choose to gain another Kagune, or you can wrap your Kagune, which increases your base Kagune damage. So the way uses work is that every time you attack with your Kagune, or you block, or an ability says uses a Kagune, that means that Kagune you used is gone and you cannot use it until the start of your turn. So basically, if you have 2 Kagune, let's say you have 2 Kagune, and you attack with one, right? You use your unique action to do a Kagune rush. You attack, you hit. Even if you don't hit, it still counts as a use. That means you can no longer use that Kagune, and you have one Kagune use left because you started off with 2. So now that kind of becomes the conundrum of, do you use it now to go in for an attack and do more damage, or do you save it and, you know, use it as a reaction for Kagune block? Because if you use all of them and someone attacks you and like, oh man, I really wish I had my Kagune left so I could do Kagune block, you're kind of screwed, you know. So it does become a bit of a balancing act of, what do you like, how in do you want to go, how many times do you want to use your Kagune, and how much of a safety net do you want to have. And as you increase in level, you get more and more Kagune. Now, this doesn't mean that, let's say you have 4 Kagune, that doesn't mean you have 4 actions with those Kagune. No. You still have to follow however many actions and unique actions you have. It's just however many Kagune you have. Like, you could have 8 Kagune, and if you only have like a unique action in, not a unique action, if you have an action in 4 unique actions, you only get to use it 5 times. It doesn't matter if you have 8 Kagune. You can still only use those Kagune 5 times per turn, because that's how many actions / unique actions you have. Now, obviously, if you have abilities that are like, oh, this costs 3 Kagune, you can obviously use more than 5 Kagune, but you get the idea. And the same thing applies to Quinque, but again, that's a little harder to visualize because they don't physically gain more Quinque. It's more so just, this is how many times you can use the Quinque before it starts to break from overuse. Because effectively, you know, if you have 3 uses with your Quinque, you're basically just slamming it down 3 times, and if you do that enough times, it's gonna break. So that is also the same thing of, you have X amount of uses with your Quinque per turn. And yeah, mind you, all this is per turn. At the start of your next turn, they get replenished, and you can use it however many times you want. Day-to-day process. This is technically a less combat focused and more RP focused system, which I should mention at the top, but whatever. This is pretty simple. Day-to-day, you have 6 slots that you got 6 slots, each separated into 4-hour time slots. And in those 6 slots, that's when you do your actions. That's when it's like, oh, for these X amount of hours, I'm going to do that, and that. But the thing is, you must sleep for at least 2 of those sleeping. If you don't, you get exhaustion, which is a -1 on all rolls per stack. So when you actually think about it, you don't got 6, you got 4, actually. Which, yeah. During those time slots, that's when you regain sanity, you go buy stuff, you go work to get money, you go do stuff, you know, around that time is when you do it. Obviously, when you get into more like RP and like plot focused stuff, you shouldn't follow this to a T of like, yep, you did that during that 4-hour span. It's just like, just do the thing, you know, just do your stuff that you want to do. You don't gotta like follow this to a T, but this is like your general, you have like you got 3 time slots a day basically. During those 3 time slots, what do you want to do? You know, that's the basics of it. Also, there are some perks if you stay up late at night, if you're a ghoul investigator. Resting, this is pretty simple. Quick rest. Well, actually, there is something unique about this, especially with ghouls. Unique rest. Any rest shorter than 1 hour, they regain 1/4 of their HP and RC. EC. Short rest. 1 in 4 hours regain 1/2 of their HP and RC. Oh no, wait. I'm smart. You see, you can tell I'm smart. I don't need to do this because I already explained how EC charged is done, so I don't gotta do that. But yeah, but the main thing with resting for ghouls specifically is you cannot get past 75% RC recovered via sleeping. So if you got 100 RC and you were at 40 and you take a full rest, the max you can go is 75 RC. If you want to fill out that other 25%, like 25, you gotta go eat something, because that is kind of, you can't just like fully, because like RCs are based on the things you eat, so it wouldn't make sense just, oh yeah, you sleep and regain RC cells, even though I was like, no, that's not how that works. You gotta go like eat food if you want to recover your RC cells. And that again kind of plays into the whole stress of this game, which is you have to eat. You are getting in combat and using RC cells, you need to eat food, or else you're not going to be working at full power, which some people are okay with, and that's kind of, the give and take. Sanity system. This is the sanity system. Basically, everyone starts at 0 sanity, and depending on certain events, you will either need to roll a soundness check to either gain sanity or lose sanity. Depending on the roll, you will lose X amount of sanity, and you go up or down the bar. Yeah. Sanity. Everyone starts at 0 sanity, and you're not getting any positive or negative effects. If you are at 0 sanity, if you're at negative or positive sanity, you gain some effects, which are different and unique to each species. One major difference with, not major difference, one big thing about being in the negative sanity is that if you are in the negative sanity for too long, specifically if you are below -5 sanity, your max sanity drops by 1 if you were at that for longer than a week. If you are in a negative mindset for long enough, eventually you are just not going to be able to go back to, fully happy and all that. It doesn't, like, if you are at that low of sanity for several weeks on end, you're not going to be able to go back up to your original full happy, because that's not how that works. That's not how that works. But you can regain it and gain the max positivity level that you lost by standing in positivity for long enough. Just read it. Just read this. I explained that very poorly. Just read it. Now, here's the big thing. Soundness check rules. If any of these events happen, these are the DCs that you gotta roll to see if you lose sanity or not. Again, some of these can be a little vague, like stressful character moment, character regression, but some of them are pretty obvious, like finding a gruesome scene, killing an innocent bystander, taking 50%, and obviously, the more gruesome and intense the scene is, the higher and higher the sanity roll. These are just examples. You should come up with your own sanity rolls whenever it feels appropriate. Same thing, like DCs should change and morph depending on the situation. Like if the stressful character moment involves like some type of trauma that the character has been experiencing, then the DC should probably be a little higher than 8 to match that same tone and all that. But yeah, soundness is very important. And thus, if you lose sanity, here is the sanity amount. Again, changes and fluctuates depending on the situation. Now, for relaxing / sanity gain, the way this works is that you spend a time slot, one of those 6 time slots, going out and just relaxing or doing something that is nice for your character's mental health. Then you gotta roll a DC soundness check, and if you pass that soundness check, you do not regain a sanity point. You gotta do that twice. You gotta take up 2 time slots in a day and succeed the soundness roll twice, and then you regain a sanity point. And the lower sanity you are, as in the lower in the negative sanity you are, the higher the DC is. The base DC is 12. If you get to 4, 1 to 4, you get 4. The DC is 14, so on and so forth. Dismemberment chart. Okay. So dismemberment chart. This is the main combat system, I guess you can say. Basically, due to just how brutalized everyone gets in the Tokyo Ghoul system, in the Tokyo Ghoul series, there is a way to specifically tear people limb from limb. The way you do this is before you roll, you say, I want to target X body part. You then go to the chart and then you add minuses to your roll based on the body part you're targeting, and then you need to deal X amount of damage, like X amount of final damage to said body part. And if you reach the damage threshold, that body part gets removed, and that person gains the negative effects of losing said body part. The lower level stuff is pretty easy to get, and their effects aren't that good. But then you get to the higher level stuff, and in order to actually, perform the dismemberment, you got to roll really high and you got to deal a lot of damage. But the negative effects dealt are pretty good. Ghouls, if they lose a limb, all they need to do is roll a collective healing roll equal to the damage they took to regrow said body parts. So if they got a hand cut off, they would need to re-roll. They would need to roll a total healing roll over collective turns equal to 30% of their max HP in order to regrow said hand. Ghoul Investigator, on the other hand, are not so lucky. If they find the body part after combat, they can go and get it stitched back up, and it might be good. If that body part got eaten or too destroyed, you just lose that body part, and you have that negative effect forever. There's nothing you can do about it except for you can get a prosthetic to help with the effects, which I'll probably create prosthetics and all that and shop at some point. But yeah, Ghoul Investigator losing a limb are pretty bad, because if they lose limbs, they can't reattach them as easily. Ghouls, even if they don't succeed the healing roll amount, eventually it will just regrow after a day or two, because that's how ghouls work if you have the significant RC cells. One of my favorite things on this is specifically head and torso. Head and torso is really fun because while it does have a -10 on rolls to hit and you have to deal 100% of their max HP, you can just kill them outright. So I find that really cool, because it's a neat way to do, because taking double your max HP is something that doesn't happen a lot in systems. So this is an easier way to do that. I think it's a cool little fixture. It also kind of signifies your strength level. If it's you are so it basically makes it so that super strong people can take out weaker people very easily, because yeah, they're 10 times stronger than you. They should just be able to one tap kill you instead of, oh, you survived 2 hits. It's no, I should just be allowed to just bam and your head's gone because I'm way stronger. These are status effects. I'll get them done at some point. Skill points. Okay. So, every time you level up, you gain 1 or 2 skill points based on, where you level up into. And these skill points can be spent in the skill point shop. Excuse me. And in the skill point shop, you can buy something equal to your rating for 1 point. And you can buy that, add it to your skill list, and you get that skill. However, if you want to buy something that's at a lower grade level than you, aka on a different page, that costs 2 less if it's lower than you. So basically, that 1 skill point turns into 2 skill points if you're buying something from a rank lower than you. And you can do it the other way, where if you want to buy something from a rating section that is high, that is 1 higher than you, you can save up 2 skill points and then buy 1 skill from a rating section that is higher than you for 2 skill points. So you can either spend 1 skill point on something that's at your level, you can buy 2 things for 1 if it's below your level, and then you can buy 1 thing for 2 if it's above your rating level. Tricks everyone shared. I'll get this done at some point. These are just basic things that everyone shares. Rating system. If you watch the series, these are pretty self-explanatory. We did add some of our own ones, like senior rank 3, senior rank 2. All these are pretty top first class investigator. That doesn't exist. Yeah, we added some more of these so they could become more even, and the ghoul investigator and ghouls would have, level ups that would fit them. However, it becomes a certain point where if you're a ghoul investigator, you just won't reach the strength of ghouls. There are just double S and triple S rank ghouls ghoul investigators will never reach. Now, obviously, there are some exceptions, like you have Armina, who is like, handling triple S rank ghouls, but like that is an obsession. That is an exception. And we're not including him. We're not going to take into account Armina for balancing in the system. All right, that's a different story. This rating system explained. I'll get these at some point. Probably not actually, because who cares? Okay. Top of every time when you level up, you gain skill points. You also gain stats every time you level up. So every time you level up, you get X amount of stat increases, which you can put into your stats to increase your stats. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Every time you level up, put one of these into your stat points, and there you go. Yeah, you get a better stat. So death, pretty simple. Like in every other TTRPG, if you reach W max HP, you die. If you hit 0, you need to automatically roll a death save, which the death save which you can roll any roll you want, any substat for your death save. However, the DC is your Ghoul/Investigator rating X2, which it starts at F/recruit at 1, D/senior at 2, so on and so forth. So you need to beat that. However, what you can do is you can give up 2 sanity to give yourself advantage to that roll if you want to. So if you want to keep on going and push your body beyond what you can give up 2 sanity to return, to give yourself basically a better chance at surviving. However, if all that fails and you do die, there is a way for you to come back. If you die and you fail your save twice, because that's also the thing, death saves, you fail them twice. Not 3 times like in D&D, you fail them twice. If you do die, you can permanently decrease your max sanity by 2 to automatically stabilize yourself. That doesn't mean you come back. That just means you stabilize and you don't die as you force yourself to continue living, which I find really cool, and I'm super happy of that. It fits. I think it fits really well. This is a section about ghouls and half ghouls. First off, good lord, Ashija, why is your art so good? God, that was used for the ending. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure that was used for the ending, which is crazy. Ghouls. So ghouls are basically super enhanced human vampires. Their skin is able to tank bullets and knives like nothing, and that is due to the RC cells in their system enhancing their bodies, and ghouls are the only ones that can handle that high amount of RC cells. Yeah, it's ghouls. I'm not going to explain. If you know Tokyo Ghoul, you know ghouls. Ghouls also have healing, which you can take an action to heal a base of 1d8 plus your ghoul rank level for 8 RC. That will increase as you level up. You'll get add an extra healing dice to this, and also as you rank up, the bonus will also get increased. Yeah, some ghouls, they hide amongst people, some ghouls don't. Again, if you watched it, you know. Artificial one-eyed ghouls are... these guys are real interesting. So, first off, if you want to play an artificial ghoul, make sure DM's okay with it, because these guys are really strong. If you've seen the series, these guys are really strong. So, while being an artificial one-eyed ghoul, if you choose to be an artificial one-eyed ghoul, you get a lot of mini benefits that basic ghouls do not start off with. They start out with an extra Kagune, which they can use for wrapping, which they can off the bat use to wrap their Kagune or just have an extra use. So basically, artificial one-eyed ghouls can either start out with 3 Kagune uses, or they can start out with 2 Kagune uses, but they get an extra damage die because they wrapped. They get 1 extra Kagune every other new Kakugo. So at A-, S+, and triple S, they get an extra Kagune whenever they gain a Kakugo. They get 1 extra regeneration dice, and they start out with plus 10 RC. However, due to the stressful process of turning into a ghoul and not fitting into either world, they have a more unstable mindset due to their mental unstableness in Being new to the ghoul world, they roll disadvantage on all deception rolls related to hiding their ghoul nature. This goes away once they reach B rank, however. What never goes away is their -2 to all soundness rolls, and if they lose sanity, they lose 1 extra sanity point. So, benefits of being an artificial one-eyed ghoul, you're really strong. You start with a lot of benefits. However, your soundness is really bad, and if you fail a soundness roll, you get screwed over real bad. Like, let's say you fail like a basic -1 sanity. Cool, you don't lose -1 sanity, you lose -2 now. And that's not even talking about like, oh, did you take half your full HP and damage? Cool, that's not -3, it's -4. You go down -4 slots. That is, it can get real bad. And again, because you have a -2 to all sanity rolls, your sanity isn't going to be that good, which is going to be harder to regain sanity. And on top of that, if you go far enough down on the ladder, you get to like -10 sanity. If you're in -10 sanitary, -10 sanity territory, you just full blown lose control of your body. And that's bad for your allies, because you are already supercharged and super strong than them, and you have no control of yourself because you lost your sanity. Natural one-eyed ghouls. You cannot play as a natural one-eyed ghoul. No matter how much you beg and cry and plead, you are not playing as a natural one-eyed ghouls. These things are monstrous freaks of nature. You cannot play these. These things are way too strong for players. You can make an NPC. There's a whole little thing you can take to make NPCs. A player should not ever be a natural one-eyed ghoul, because it will break the system in every way, shape, or form. So, here's a calculation for HP, EC, and RC. Pretty self-explanatory. Ghoul investigators do have 30 instead of 20 for their base HP, but that's because ghouls don't need as much HP as the ghoul investigators. Ghoul investigators need to be more hardy to take hits because they can't recover from them. Ghouls can recover from hits very easily. Here are the positive sanity effects. As your sanity increases, you get more and more benefits. Here's your negative sanity effects. As your sanity decreases, you get worse and worse effects. Mind you, these stack, unless they say they replace an effect. So, you know. Feeding. Feeding is pretty important. So, the major change I did from baseline Tokyo Ghoul. In baseline Tokyo Ghoul, ghouls need to eat once a month. They need to eat a pound. I think it's like a pound. Yeah, it's like a pound of human flesh every month to survive and not gain any negative effects. In this system, I changed it to twice a week. Hang on. I did that wrong. Twice a month. Twice a month, aka once every other week. Basically, they have to eat twice a month or once every other week because like in normal TTRPG campaigns, you're not gonna be like around, like months take a long time to get through, days take a while to get through, let alone months. So to actually make it the need to eat, the need to feed actually meaningful and lean, like, kind of be swaying over the player's head, I turned it to you need to eat every 2 weeks, because that makes it a little more tense and a little more necessary, because you're gonna get through 2 weeks faster than you are a month. Hunting and feeding grounds. Basically, you can mark a place if you like. You can go out and you can kill people and get their food if you're a ghoul, which you get many benefits from eating people. Other than RC, if you get like binge eater, you can gain some pretty big benefits. But if you do it enough, you get a little territory where people won't mess around with you because, hey, I saw you eating there a bunch. I'm not going to mess with you. However, if you go out, you got to roll instincts to hunt down a target. And there's a good chance you just get a bad target. And if you do, oh boy, you're going to lose a lot of sanity because you are indeed hunting down and killing innocent people for food. It doesn't matter who you are. Like, if you kill an innocent person, it's gonna weigh on your sanity pretty bad. So, yeah, hunting does have a lot of its benefits. However, yeah, no, you can lose a lot of sanity if you fail your soundness roll. Human food. Ghouls cannot eat human food. They need to make a grit roll DC 12, or else they'll throw the food back up, which is a pretty big sign, because, if you eat food and throw it up, that's a pretty big sign that you're not human. And even if you do eat food, you gain a level of, effectively, you get a bunch of negative effects, because you're not supposed to be eating it, and eating it is bad for ghouls. Mask. They give benefits. Read it. I gotta move on with this. This is taking a while. Kagune. I already explained Kagune pretty well with their uses, but every player starts off with a Kakugo, and inside every Kakugo is two Kagune. Every Kakugo contains two Kagune, and you start off with one Kakugo, which means everyone starts off with two Kagunes. Taking your Kagune out increases your physical stats, and you get a +1 to all brawn and swiftness rolls. That includes substats as well, as it trickles down. However, having your Kagune out costs 2 RC every turn. There's also a way to destroy a Kagune listed here. They have their own little HP bar, but that's kind of a niche ruling, but it's there. Kagune is ranged. This is something I really do love. I really do like this. I'm super proud of it. Kagune range is based on the amount of RC cells divided by 5, rounded down to the nearest number divisible by 5. So if you have an RC value of 30, you would divide that by 3, and since that equals 10, that's how far your Kagune reach. You have a Kagune reach of 10. This also includes with stuff like Ukaku, which have actual ranges. Top of that, Kagunes can shift and morph based on someone's imagination, which is a DC set by the DM. Alright. So this is the complicated part. Okay. So first off, all Kagune do base Kagune damage, which is listed in their classes, plus their finesse level. And then, every time you get a Kakugo, which it'll say whenever you gain a Kakugo from leveling up, you get 2 Kagune. And with those Kagune, you can do one of 2 things. You can either do option A, which is just keep the Kagune. You keep the Kagune, which means you got more Kagune uses, which I explained in the uses slide. More Kagune you have means the more times you can actually use the Kagune per turn. Or you can do option B, which option B basically means you wrap your Kagune around your other Kagune to strengthen them. This means that their base damage increases by their dice +1. So, if you have a base damage die of a D4, if you wrap your Kagune, you add an extra D4 to your base damage. And this doesn't apply to individual Kagunes, this applies to every Kagune, including new Kagune you grow. Basically, it just increases your base damage die, and you choose one of those 2 options, and you gotta stick with it. You cannot wrap a Kagune and then keep one and be like, oh, actually, I want to wrap this one to increase my damage. You picked your choice. You can't go back. Now, you can, of course, wrap, if you get your 2 new Kagune, you can wrap both of them to increase your damage by 2 dice. You can totally do that. You can keep both of them so you have 2 extra uses, or you can do a combo of both. Up to you. But again, whatever choice you choose, you cannot take back. If you chose wrapping, if you chose to wrap one and to keep one, you gotta do that. If you chose to wrap both, you gotta keep that. If you chose to keep both and not wrap them, you gotta keep that. You can't change your mind midway through. And again, this comes with its own balances, as you can wrap every single Kagune you get and get a massive amount of damage dealt per Kagune hit. Problem. You have 2 uses per Kagune, which means you can't really do a lot. You can only use them twice. You do a lot of damage, but you can only use them twice. However, you think, oh, okay, well then I'll just never wrap my Kagune. Cool. You have a lot of uses. Don't got a lot of damage. You don't do a lot of damage, and people can just kind of ignore your damage dealt to them. So that's kind of where the balance comes in. Of you got to find the right balance of however many Kagune you have on you versus how many you wrap. Kakujo are not Kakujo. Kakuja are complex. So basically, if a ghoul cannibalizes on enough ghouls, their RC cells increase and they warp and change into these things. You can read this as a whole thing, but basically, the one major thing, other than the fact that if you get a Kakuja, uh, you can like take it out and summon the Kakuja, and that gives you many different benefits. As technically speaking, if you have like 4 Kagune, you can keep 2 away and only have 2 out. You can technically do that. Most aren't going to do that, but you can. So that's how Kakuja works. Basically, a Kakuja works as advanced wrapping, where you turn some of your Kagune into Kakuja Kagune, and whenever you bring out those Kagune specifically, you get major benefits. One major important thing about this: if you eat 15 ghouls, as in you had a meal by eating them, it doesn't matter what you want to do, your next skills must be sent on getting the half Kakuja effect if you eat 15 ghouls. Doesn't matter what you want to do, you need to get it as you are becoming a Kakuja by eating that many people. Same thing with full Kakuja. If you eat 30 people, you immediately have to go and buy the full Kakuja skill because you are now a full Kakuja. You also don't need to eat that many people to become them. Obviously, you need to eat some. You can't just become a half Kakuja by not eating any ghouls. But that's, you gotta eat some. But if you eat a whole bunch, you immediately become them. RC/Kagune types are the classes of this system. At start of character creation, you choose your class, and that's what everything's based off of. They are 4 types: Ukaku, Kokaku, Renkaku, and then Bikaku. Ukaku are the more light on their fleet build. They don't gain... Okay, first off, I should explain this. I was getting ahead of myself. Every time you level up, on top of skills and stats, you also get HP, RC, and sometimes you get skills. These skills are specialized to this class only, and only this class can take them. So, Ukaku are lighter on their feet. They don't get a lot of HP, but boy do they have a lot of RC, and that's due to their range, which is found in the Feather Shot ability. Which, you don't need to use Feather Shot to attack. You can just attack them with your Kagune. Just swipe them with it. Kokaku are more about HP than RC. They are the tanks. They move slow. Boy, are they hard to put down. And they deal a lot of damage. Renkaku. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, this is where your base damage comes in. This is where your base stuff comes in. Right here. Right there. That's where your base stuff comes in. Renkaku are balance types where they don't have a lot of HP. They have really good healing and they can deal decent... No, not balance types. They don't got a lot of HP. Their healing is really good and they can do a lot of damage with their Kagune. How did I skip 2 sides? Bikaku are the actual balance types. These are the guys that have good HP, good RC, and they're good all round. Here are their class abilities that they gain. Double S and triple S ratings. These are ratings you can give to your players. However, these ratings are when stuff gets ridiculous for ghouls. And having a party of double S rated ghouls is going to be impossible to balance. So don't do it. But you can. I just don't recommend it. But when they become double or triple S, they also gain new skills and HP, RC, and regeneration bonuses. Ghoul increase perks. This is where it tells you that every time you level up, you gain skill points. Yeah, this also tells you when you get a new action, a new Kaguo, a unique action, so on and so forth. Same thing. Here's the thing for double S and triple S. Ghoul skills. These are the things you spend your skill points on, and I already talked about that. So, obviously, if you want, you can do more things as a unique action, but that's kind of like DM to DM based. However, these are your built-in unique actions, and these actions can only be used with your unique actions. They do different things and they give major benefits, so you want to keep an eye on these. These are pretty good. Here's a cool little transition slide as we go from ghouls to ghoul investigators. All right, so ghoul investigators. Ghoul investigators are the other type of playstyle you can use whenever you're starting your campaign or one shot. Ghoul investigators or the work for the Commission of Counter Ghoul, aka the CCG. It's a federal agency that relates to ghoul-related crimes. Basically, they're ghoul police. They're police who go after ghouls. Ghoul Investigator, HP, and AC, as they do not have RC, they have EC, which is calculated later in Quinque. Again, they got plus 10 more HP than ghouls, because they need it. Because again, they cannot recover their HP. Whatever damage they take in combat is what they take, unless they have like a med kit on them, which that might not even help, because you can't exactly med kit a missing hand. They also have their own unique sanity, positive and negative effects. Why is this all... I forgot this character's name. Why is it just her? Don't worry about it. It's I cannot lie to you. The only positive stuff I could find where Ghoul Investigators was happy was when she was around. So, you know, ask Ishija. So, Ghoul Investigators have a neat little system in play whenever they are on... whenever they're doing like a mission proper. So there is the investigation phase. So during the investigation phase, Ghoul Investigators are going to spend time slots rolling investigation rolls, well, insight rolls, whatever, to track down the ghoul. Now, the rolls are already kind of preset based on how easy or hard you want them to find this is. However, the amount of times they need to succeed so basically, the way it works is you say, okay, we got like the Butcher, okay? Butcher, he killed 5 people. We need you guys out to go and find information about him. So what they would do is they would spend a time slot finding and doing research and all of that. However, you skip over that because that's the boring stuff that no one cares about, and you solidify it down to like, you know, a quick little blurb of what they did, and then a intuition or deduction roll. This roll, again, depending on how quickly you want them to go through the investigation phase, depends on if you want it to be easy. It depends on what the DC you want it to be, what you want it to be set, and also how many times they need to pass that DC to move forward. Because if you set the DC like, oh, they need to pass the DC 5 times to, you know, get enough information to track down the school, then that'd be, you know, more on the easier side. It would take them 5 time slots to do it. Yeah, but you don't even want to do 5 to begin with because everyone gets the roll, so that'd be, you know, 3 successes in 1 time slot immediately makes that halfway over. You want to do more like 20 to 30, something like that, to give a proper amount of rolls and amount of time. Again, the harder the DC is and the more times you need to succeed that DC determines on how long they stay in this phase. So you want to get through the phase quickly, make a DC easy, and then lower the amount of times they need to succeed. If you want them to be here be here for a long time, because like either the ghoul itself is really hard to track down or just you want time to skip, make the DC harder, make it harder to track them. However, once you beat the DC, the set amount of times the DM sets for, you go into the tracking phase. So during this phase, you basically slow down time and you go into the scene set by the DM. And during those scenes set by the DM, where, you know, you're walking around RPing, all that, this is where they track down the ghoul, as it's like, okay, we know the ghoul is in this house, we're gonna go get that ghoul. That is the tracking phase. During this phase, the ghoul will either turn themselves in, they will hide, or they'll run away, and depending on that, depends on what the ghoul investigator does next. If they're hiding or running away, the DM should set DCs, and the players have to beat those DCs to find or catch up to the ghouls. Those DCs should change if they do clever tactics, you know, give them bonuses and all that. And again, much like with the other phase, depending on how many times they need to beat this DC, depends on how hard and how long this phase is going to take. Then we slow down one more time, which is the arresting phase. This is where either you just put the cuffs on the ghoul, take them in, clap your hands, pat someone on the back, and go, "We did it. Ghoul's gone. We're good." Or the ghoul fights back, and this is when you enter combat with a ghoul, which is when you would use the combat system to fight them and then either exterminate them and take them out because they are a danger to society, or you harm them enough to where they are no longer able to fight, and then you take them in. The rules in the CCG said that you are not allowed to attack a ghoul unless it poses a threat. A lot of people ignore that rule because a lot of people are here to get revenge on ghouls. So, technically they're not supposed to do it, but who knows? The rules get broken a lot, and that kind of determines your character and what you want to do. Now, there is also a secret fourth phase, which is interrogation. So basically the way interrogation works is if you capture a ghoul or human who has information related to the crime scene, you can roll intimidation, or I think, where is it? Or persuasion/deception. You can roll one of those options, and basically you need to roll those options X amount of time set by the DM, of course, and once you succeed the DC enough times, they will tell you the information. However, every time you fail a DC, their stress level increases. And if they are stressed enough and they're you fail enough times and their stress level reaches its max, they will shut down and they will no longer talk. So, the difference between intimidation and persuasion is that if you fail on a persuasion/deception roll, you only lose. The stress level only increases by 1. However, if you fail the intimidation roll, their stress level increases by 2. So I hear you saying, "Oh, so just use persuasion/deception every single time." Well, no, because there's some information you have to get out with intimidation. Because some information they're going to hold tight to their chest no matter what, and you do have to intimidate them to get it out. So that's kind of the give and take, the yin and yang, so on and so forth. Next, there is feeding. Ghoul investigators need to eat at least 2 meals a day. So the way this works is they can either take up a full time slot to eat the food, have a nice proper meal, and if they do that, they gain the full benefits of the food they are eating, as eating food gives you benefits. However, they can spend half a time slot, aka just eat food and gain half the benefits of the food they're eating. This doesn't waste a time slot. It's just you say, "Oh, I go off, eat this food," and then you can use the time slot for the rest of your thing. However, spending a whole time slot to eat does have its benefits, which includes, potentially gaining sanity, because who knows. If you skip 2 meals, you will get the effects of starving, which is just aka reflavored, exhaustion. In order to remove a level of starving, you need to eat a full meal to remove a stack. So basically, on top of managing your investigations during the investigating phase, fighting and tracking ghouls, you also got to eat a proper amount of food, or else you're going to start falling back. Which, there are some benefits to just skipping meals and not eating them and spending them tracking down ghouls, as you can find them faster, but if you find them, you're going to be hungry and real tired and not be working at full power. So Quinque are similar to Kagune, however, they are a little bit different. So, Quinque are not based on RC, they're based on EC, or electric RC cells, which that number is not based on the investigator, it's based on it's 5 times Quinque rating. So whatever the Quinque is rated at, that's how much EC the Quinque can hold. It costs 4 EC per turn to have the Quinque out of its case. And yeah, while inside the suitcase, they regain 25% max EC per hour. So in 4 hours, your Quinque goes back up to full. Yeah, investigators can use Quinque at their level without any issues. However, any Quinque above their level, they drop down in proficiency by 1 if it's above their level, which that's a whole thing. We'll get to proficiency in a little bit. You can either roll brutality or motor control to hit with your Quinque if it's a physical attack. However, if it's a ranged attack, you must roll to hit with motor control. So again, these things also have uses like excuse me, like Kagune, but they're slightly different. So Ghoul investigators do have a way to gain Quinque. They can either gain Quinque by like getting it assigned to them or buying it from the CCG, or they can kill a ghoul, and then as long as the ghouls Kagune and Kakugo are intact, they can rip it out and then take it to CCG HQ and get a Kagune, get a Quinque made out of that Kagune they ripped from the ghoul. The Quinque would be equal to the rating of the ghoul that they took the Kagune from. Top of that, Quinque have a limit to the amount of damage they can take before they break. So they are the amount of damage they can take, aka just how many hits the Kagune can take before it breaks, is equal to the Quinque rating. Again, recruit / F rank starting at 1, increasing. So a B rank would be able to take 6 hits, but a B plus would be able to take 7. Once a Quinque damage amount that, the max HP a Quinque has is reduced to 0, is broken, and cannot be properly used in combat and needs to be brought in for repair. Every time you bring in for repair, it loses 1 of its highest damage dice, and once it can no longer lose a damage dice, aka like 1, like a 1d10, or like 1d6, it cannot go any lower, which means it cannot be repaired anymore. The way to damage a Quinque is by giving themselves a -4 on the roll to hit, and if they hit it, they deal 2 damage to the Quinque. Quinque damage is a little unique because Quinque damage is based on your base damage plus the bonuses you get per the Quinque rating level. So, for instance, if you have a B rank Quinque, you would do your base damage and then add 2d6, as that is the damage that the Quinque does itself. Because your base damage is basically just how physically good you are at damaging people with your Quinque. Like Armina, even with a A rank Quinque, is still Armina. He's still going to do insane damage because he's Armina. However, he's not going to be dealing as much damage as if he had a proper Quinque at his ranking, but he can still do damage. Like, pretty good damage with it because he is Armina. So again, much like with Kagune, you can either keep a Quinque or you can wrap it, which those versions are expertise, which with those expertise, you can either give yourself an extra use or you can increase your base damage. However, the base damage die you can only increase 3 times. So that means you can only increase your base damage by 3. However, your uses is unlimited. You can spend as many expertise as you want on the uses. However, you can only spend 3 expertise on increasing the damage. That is because they get damage increase by just getting stronger Quinque. So I kind of had to put a cap on their damage or else they would be ridiculous. Every time you level up, you gain 2 expertise, kind of like how you gain 2 Kagune whenever you get a Kakugo. But yeah, these things are pretty similar to Kagune with some damage caps, but they get extra damage just by existing. All right, so this is where we get into the unique ones. So Kakujo, Quinque, or Quinque armor are specialized Quinque that are based on a Kakugo Ghoul's Kagune. So first off, we got Quinque weapons, which Quinque weapons are not Quinque weapons. Kakuja Quinque weapons are slightly different from basic weapons. As first off, they do an extra damage die equal to a Quinque rating above them. So if you have a S minus Kakuja Quinque, it'd be doing S damage, basically. On top of that, it inherently comes with a gimmick, which a gimmick is a special little effect your Kagune can do. Think like Nori in Ginkgo, where he could like press a button and then a mouth would shoot out of his sword. Stuff like that. Third, Kakuja Quinque cost a lot more. They cost double EC to keep out, aka 8 EC, and they recharge at a rate of 20% per hour, not 25. On top of that, Ghoul investigators below junior special class are not allowed to wield these Quinque, as they are just way too strong for anyone below that rank. It would be wasting it on them if they were to give it to it. But these are basically just souped up Quinque. Then there is Quinque armor. These are, first off, there are two types. There's prototype and then full. Prototype armor gives you a +2 bonus to all brawn and swiftness rolls. This includes substats. They reduce all incoming damage by 2d8 plus brawn or swiftness level. But in exchange, they take 2d4 of unmitigatable damage per attack dealt by them, and it costs 8 EC to keep active. Basically, this is a super form where you put the armor on and you get a lot of buffs that are... These buffs should theoretically help ghoul investigators be able to keep up with double S and triple S ghouls. However, there is drawbacks such as dealing damage to yourself and a hefty cost to keep out. But the armor can only stay out for 5 turns, and after 5 turns must put away for 4 turns to properly... Well, not 4 turns, sorry. 4 hours to properly recharge. Once you reach a certain rank, which it says in here, you are automatically given one of these as just a way of, you are going to be fighting stronger ghouls at this rank, so you need this to stay alive. But yeah, these things don't have, like, same thing with, I guess I didn't explain this properly. Quinque don't have, like, their own separate EC, just you have EC equal to the highest rating weapon you have. Guess I should say that, because you can theoretically have multiple weapons, but you should only have one Quinque. I'll explain that better later. I'll make sure to explain that better. But yeah, this takes from the same pool as these, as you basically just have one standard pool based on your highest rating Quinque you have on you. Then there are complete Quinque armor, such Kakujo armor. These things are basically the same thing as prototypes, but they give a lot more benefits, cost a lot more. You can keep them out for longer, but you gotta charge them for a full 8 hours before you can use them. These are the big boys. These are the things you use on double S and triple S rate ghouls if you want to stand even a chance. Gimmicks, basically, some Kagune have gimmicks. These are unique effects to these Kagune, which give them a leg up on ghouls, as ghoul investigators are not able to fight ghouls on even footing, so the way to give them advantage is by tricking them with gimmicks. Here's all the gimmicks you can use. Proficiency. Okay, so the way proficiency works is based on the class you choose determines how proficient you are with a Quinque. So, if you choose Ukaku, that means you would be proficient with Ukaku, which means you just roll it normally. You'd be semi-proficient with Bikaku. You would be not proficient with Renkaku, and you'd be unproficient with Kokaku. which, depending on your proficiency, determines on the negative effects you get. You are semi-proficient, you add no bonuses to the roll to hit, which means you just roll a flat d20 to hit. You are not proficient, you roll no bonuses, and you roll disadvantage on rolls to hit. And if you're unproficient, no bonuses, -2, and disadvantage on all rolls to hit. -2 on rolls to hit. There we go. Quinque types. What is... Oh, right. A unique thing about ukakus is that if you choose a ukaku, they cost 3 EC to attack every time you want to attack, similar to ukaku Kagune. But these are your classes that you choose. Classes determine what type of, first off, your proficiency, and just in general, what type of fighter you are. You know, people who choose like ukaku, Quinque are going to be more reliant to the like ukaku style of fighting. And these things are not their abilities, but their general use are very similar to their Kagune counterparts. However, main difference is that these skills are supposed to be used together. They're more team oriented, as like you can use your abilities together to perfectly execute a ghoul, as again, teamwork and all that. Rating increase perks, same thing as ghouls. Same thing with their skills. Unique actions, they have different unique actions, but again, they're pretty similar. They just lost bite and body and sense enhancement, but they got these. So yeah. Quinks are coming whenever I get time. Quinks are coming at some point. NPCs. So the way NPCs work is that NPCs do the same thing as normal players. They treat the rules the same. However, their HP, RC, and skills are different from players, as they have preset HP, RC, and they can get unique skills that the players cannot get. So these things, again, the rules are treated the same. They still like roll d20 plus motor control to hit with their Kagune, and whatever the class they choose and the class skills they still get. Same thing with like their uses, however many Kagune they get, that is all the same. So Kagune rolls to hit, Kagune / expertise. Sorry, let me start that from the top. So the thing that NPCs share with normal players is their classes, their upgrade, such as Kakugo, expertise, wrapping, uses. That's all the same. Same thing with like RC healing amounts, AC, unique action, and action amounts. Those are all the same. So if you want to find those out, you go look in the player handbook, player section, and you find that. However, HP, RC, and skills, those are unique to NPCs. So if you want to figure out how much HP, RC, EC, a character has, you go here. You look here. Oops. There we go. We love editing on the fly. This will be made at some point once I start using more NPCs. This is basically just the recommended level and amount of ghouls you should bring to an encounter based on your player. So if you have like 3 A ranks, it'll be like, oh, you need to bring an S rank ghoul if you want it to be a decent challenge. I'll get to that once I actually test this system out, because I haven't really tested the NPCs out. So here's the NPCs. This is the rank of the NPC, and this is their HP, RC, however many stats they get to add as they get unique stats. That is the major difference, is that their stats, they can have a lot more stats than like normal characters. As the major thing with NPCs is NPCs on the same level as the players should be doing like 1v3s. And things, well, no, it should be more so one level higher should be like 1v3ing players. People below them should be like 6v3ing people. Because that's just, NPCs are very strong, is what I'm saying. NPCs are decently strong, especially with their stats and stat caps. And skill points is how many skills they can spend and add to their character sheet, and then there are caps to how many skills they can take with their skill points. This is the character sheet, where you list all your character stuff. And yeah, that's it. So if you have any questions, which first off, let me go to here so I actually remember to change that, because I realized that there's a bit of a problem. So that'll be fixed. Hey, if you want to see all the new updates and changes, as the system is constantly changing, as we are only near the beginning phase, then go to our Discord, link to the system, where you can actually find the system in the Discord, which is linked in the description. So if you want to find that, go there, and you can find the system and all the new updates we do. But yeah, that's it.